Welcome everyone to episode 10. That's right, the Big 10 of Zach's Art-Ful podcast. I'm your host with the most, Zach Cobb. I hope you're all doing wonderful. We got a big episode today. We got the wonderful Natalie Haines here with us, so kick back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Welcome everyone to a brand new episode. I hope you're all doing okay this December. That's right, it's winter time out here. And what better way than starting the wonderful season than with someone who is also just as full of excitement as the winter season itself. She is an artist for the IDW Sonic Comics. Please give it up for my wonderful guest, Natalie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Ooh. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah.
So, big question, what got you into art?
So growing up, I was always really into art. Family has always been very, artistically inclined, and so it was kind of just natural growing up to be very into the arts. A lot of my family kind of took it more in a performative arts sense, but I really took to visual arts really well, like my mom. So it's just kind of always been in my family,
yeah.
So I've always been drawing my whole life. I definitely got into creating my own stuff probably through Warrior Cats. The Warrior Cats book series was kind of where I started being my own style, and fandoms are a thing,
right.
And creating content that's not just realistic drawings
of cats.
And not that that's not great,
right.
But
of course.
My own style and stuff.
How did you come into your own style as an artist?
A lot of it in those early days, I was very much on the internet as a child. And so a lot of it was inspiration from other artists that I liked. I also really enjoyed animation, video games, so taking hints from stuff like that I enjoyed. Obviously, Sonic was a huge factor.
Of course.
And also just other artists that I followed online tended to be kind of huge influences. My style changed a lot when I was younger because I was very new to I guess growing up, I only ever did realistic art until I got into all that fandom stuff. And then I was like, oh, you can do cartoon stuff and have it be professional. Nice, and so...
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of anybody and everybody. I was like, I'll try this style.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes. We'll try a little something else.
This one. I like this person's style. I definitely mimicked people's styles a lot when I was younger, just for the sake of trying them out.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing. It definitely helped learn and grow, and then from there I kind of took pieces and parts that I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make my own thing, finally.
Do you have a specific work method with creating your art?
Just kind of in general.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, usually I'll tend to go just formal thumbnail to sketch to finished kind of idea. I do a lot more sketching, and lately, as I've gotten older, I've cared a little less about the polish of things. Yeah. I think is kind of a refresher. Kind of not really care about the outcome, but more so care about the process of getting there, I guess, and enjoying the process a little more.
The build up to it.
Yeah, for sure. When I was younger, I think I was a lot more focused on oh, this has to look good versus just have fun with it.
It's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what would you say was your big I want to do this moment when it came to wanting to be an artist?
I honestly never thought of anything else. Growing up, I was always art's what I want to do. Even from a very young age, I was kind of really interested in the visual arts. I won my first art contest. I was 18 months old.
Okay, just casual flexing.
Coloring contest. Yeah, I was just always really into art. There was a brief time where I was oh, maybe I should look into something that maybe gives me more money. Then as I was kind of researching it, I was like, I don't enjoy anything else, you know.
So what would you? Which character have you enjoyed drawing the most?
I really like drawing Sonic.
Of course.
I really do enjoy drawing Surge. It's really fun to draw, in my opinion. And I've got to draw Starline. I didn't think I would enjoy him as much as I do, but I really like Starline.
I really liked his character arc specifically during the zombie arc storyline.
Yeah.
Of him kind of realizing Eggman, is not really the genius that he thought that he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that arc. And I was really entertained with the story arc that he did with Surge and Kit.
The Imposter Syndrome?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. The Imposter Syndrome cover that I did was actually a rush job.
Really?
Somebody else was supposed to do the cover, and unfortunately they got busy. And I was contacted pretty late in the game. So there's actually a few websites when the cover was first posted, it wasn't credited under my name, it was credited under the original artist.
Oh.
Which is why that was an issue, because it was just so late in the game. I basically only had 1 weekend to finish it.
Wow.
That was nothing on them, on the editors or anything. I entirely said yes to it. No, that was entirely.
Of course, get to draw new Sonic characters. You know what?
I was so thrilled to do it. I had a free weekend. I was like, of all the weekends to contact me, this is the perfect weekend because I'm free. So it worked out.
How many hours would you say in total have you drawn? Like, how long does it normally take for you to complete a piece of art?
Just like a single piece of art.
Yeah.
It depends very heavily. For the stuff I make for the covers, in the times that I have time to myself, it's anywhere between 7 hours and 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
It can very much depend. I put a lot more effort into or not even effort, but just I guess time into my first cover, for example, because I was definitely have a hard time being okay, it's done, time to stop.
Good enough. It's fine. I'm gonna take a breather from this. So obviously, you work as a comic artist. So, do you personally read any other read comics?
Yeah, I read a few. I've actually comics. Other than literally the Sonic comic, I never read that many comics.
Really?
Until recently. So I do now. I read some of the TMNT. I read some of the Archie Mega Man. But I never was huge into them. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm not a fan of superhero stories, and a lot of comics are
very much majority.
Growing up, I just didn't know that there were other genres of comics. I recently have been getting into a lot more. Especially some more independent comics or some indie comics from local artists.
Yeah, for sure.
Shows.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about digital art recently, particularly with AI. So I was wondering if you have any. I know. I was wondering if you have had any thoughts about that.
Goof, if you will. Not a huge fan. I think AI as a tool can be very powerful. The way it has been made currently, the way it's been made as almost a sort of grapple at easy, quick money, the sake of
just get it done quickly.
It is art, it is quick, and it can make me money faster than a visual artist can. That's what I hate. The fact that it's these AI bros, these tech bros trying to prove themselves better than artists, than traditional art, digital artists or whatever.
Yeah.
And AI could be a very cool tool
to
artists and to help people and to help, especially in accessibility sense, sense. AI could be such a cool tool, but the way that people are going about it and making it, and especially with all the permissions and how a lot of it right now is entirely being created off of stolen art. It's not the correct way to go about it.
Yeah. Support local artists, everybody.
Yeah, support your artists.
Yes, prices can go a long way for someone.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I know it's never going to go away. AI art has always been around. It's not like it's just a trend that just popped up. It's
right, come out of nowhere. It's been slowly rising.
Yeah, it's like as long as the internet's existed, AI art is. And I think it's a powerful tool, and I think I wish that people can learn that and that it can be changed and to better help artists and not used as a way to get rid of them. Like, I don't see where the idea of that came from, you know?
Right. You know, like
it was very strange.
So what would you say is more important to you in terms of art, like the style or the idea?
I would say the idea, mainly because that's what's going to stay with people, I believe, in like the long term. At least how I look at art, usually. I find myself, maybe it's because I am an artist, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I usually tend to look at people's work and try to like figure out why they made it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did they choose to do it like that? Or, oh, I really like that. Why did they do that? You know?
Right.
I guess that's the problem with AI art, is it doesn't do that. You know? I'm very theoretical about art. I'm very much a, like, especially when planning like compositions and stuff, you know, and for example, like the covers, I'll have like so many different thumbnails because I'm like, okay, which one leads the eye back to this character? Which one, you know, this is what happens in the story. I don't want to spoil it, but can I convey that like in the cover without spoiling
like
the story,
poster.
you know, kind of thing. So trying to capture like the idea or thought behind something or the theme in something, just like a piece of art, I think is really interesting. I think that's what kind of keeps art in general, just because there's so much you can do with just one piece of art.
Oh, for sure.
As far as like delving into it goes, it has always been interesting.
Yeah, what would you say has been like the hardest moment for you as an artist?
A lot of the art industry is about being rejected, I think. Being told that, no, this isn't what we wanted, or no, this isn't the idea I had in mind, you know, from a client. And so having to, like, humble yourself and realize that you're not always going to be perfect and not everybody's going to like your art, and even, like, clients aren't always going to get what they want out of your art. And sometimes they never will, and you have to kind of admit that, like, that's okay.
That's fine. Not everyone's going to be your biggest fan immediately.
Exactly. Not everybody's going to be your big. Not everybody is going to enjoy you. That more so comes in a sense of just like existing online. Obviously, there's always going to be people that are going to give you flack or like a hater, you know, whatever you want to call them. And you just got to kind of learn to deal with that. It's kind of one of those things that like you got to learn to take every critique with like a grain of salt. Because some of them aren't valid.
Right, like
you gotta pick and choose which ones are.
Yeah, like not everybody is out here to get you. It's not like you versus the world.
I'm like, maybe Sonic Lover 3722 on Instagram isn't supposed to be critiqued. Maybe I shouldn't.
Right, and
maybe I shouldn't take that to heart.
Right. 15. Tails fan 24. The line art looks weird.
This is a little weird. I don't like the color on this. And I'm like, oh, shoot.
Oh, man, you got me there.
Disappointed Tails fan.
Why is Knuckles wearing his hat wrong?
So I think the hardest part is learning when to pick and choose your battles. That kind of thing. Especially online. A lot of it's not
especially on like we know how a lot of Sonic fans are very loud with their opinions.
I love Sonic fans.
Oh. Long dramatic pause for Oh, speaking of Sonic opinions, what would you say is like your biggest, hottest take?
Okay, hold on. Let me think.
I know, it's okay. Take your time.
I don't like Sonic Heroes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I can't stand the gameplay. I'm sorry. It's a good game.
I don't either. I agree. No, I respect that because I had the GameCube version, and like it's just so slippery.
I feel like saying I don't like it is too.
Like you're not.
Like
it's
it.
not
I like
your
it as a
particular
game.
type of
It's a good
tea.
concept. I love the story. Idea of it is so good. I just am bad at it. I think I have a good time playing it. It frustrates me. Like I have to take so many more breaks than I would on any other game because I just like skip. And so I'm leaving, and I think it's that slippery control feeling.
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
And I'm just like, oh man, because I played it as a kid, coming off of the adventure games, and I loved Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, and then went into Sonic Heroes, and I was like, oh, I don't like.
Not big on that. Yeah, I get you.
I enjoy it, but it's not my favorite, and I think it's a. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It's your
That's my hot take for today.
No, respect that. Not a lot of people are brave enough to state a fact like that.
Some of the best things the franchise did come out of that game, and I will respect it.
I agree. Absolutely. I still stand by that. What I'm Made Of is the best ending, final boss theme.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
I love it. I guess I'll
Omega.
Oh,
Double.
yes. Follow Me, Team Chaotix. So many good themes in that game.
Those are all very good.
For sure.
Play, not again.
I guess I shall share my. I think that Zero Gravity is better than the first Riders game. I kind of feel.
I've never played the first Riders game all the way through.
Oh, if you
played it, but I never owned it when I was younger.
I used to play it all the time on my PlayStation 2 at my grandmother's house when I was little, and it was just so much thrown at you all at once. Just it's so confusing to get around everything. Like 1 minute you're just like grinding on rails, next minute you got to spin like the right analog stick to like spin up a ramp. Then next minute you got to go grinding on the water waves. Next minute you got to refill your air pumps. Just so much stuff is being thrown at you all at once. And I love a challenge as much as the next guy, but there's a such thing as too much at once.
Wait, I have another hot take.
Oh, yes.
Sonic Free Riders is my favorite.
See, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you told me that before.
I love Sonic Free Riders. I don't remember the story too well. Probably terrible.
Was there even a story?
I loved playing it. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's terrible because it's on the Xbox Connect." I never had an issue with it. Maybe it's because when I played it, I was a kid and I was like over exaggerating every single. Like that's what you had to do to get it to work, but like that's just how I played it. Like I never had an issue with it. I was having a good time.
I'm saying, man, you must have a really good Connect there, because I played on my Connect. It barely tracked the motion when I was trying to do the jumping level in the.
I never had an issue.
Oh man, you have the luckiest Connect in the world.
It's perfect. I was surprised when I was old enough to get on the internet and get involved in groups and stuff, and I had read that people hated Sonic Free Riders because of the Kinect and that people had issues with it. I was like, when? Really, where? I was like, since when?
Why even?
I was so surprised.
Yeah, I have another opinion. I think that the storybook games are Sonic at his peak characterization.
I think story-wise, as far as
story-wise, I think this is his peak. I just like him. He's just so nonchalant about it. He's there to
very, very Sonic X.
Oh yes, very shonen anime vibes, and I'm here for it. The scene where Sonic just tells off Eraser Jin with the lamp at the end, and I told you I'm not a rat, I'm a hedgehog, and that was, oh man, little me was just so hyped about that. Well, speaking of, I guess I would say, speaking of Sonic, how did you get involved with the IDW comics?
So on Twitter, I had followed both of the editors, David Marriott and Riley Farmer. And one day, David had just made like a really vague tweet about looking for artists. And he's an editor on some of the other bigger IDW titles, Transformers. But he works on some of the other titles. But I know he also worked on Sonic, and so I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot.
There you go.
And at night, I actually sat on my apartment floor. I was like a sophomore in college, and I made 2 comic pages, extremely quick, because I knew that they won't hire you in examples. I had comic examples, but not like
Sonic comic examples. Yeah,
that too. So I sat on my apartment floor. In like 30 minutes, I made 2 comic pages lined.
Oh my god.
And I posted them under this tweet. Like I replied, and I dropped the link to my portfolio, and then I had these 2 comic pages there. And I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. And the next day, the assistant editor, Riley, had emailed me and was like, hey, do you want to do a cover? And I was like, oh, shoot.
Hey, let's go. I get to do Sonic stuff.
I was like, this is a fake email. But he's bamboozling me, because I posted my email in this link, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had some professors that worked for IDW, different editors, and I was like, can you check this email? Is this
is valid?
Yeah, that's legit.
Right, it's not spam.
I was like, oh, shoot.
Ooh, it's legit. It's legit.
My mom, and I was like, Mom, guess what?
I'm gonna draw Sonic.
Well, then I had to go through an approval process, and that took a while.
I knew that you were an advocate with artists for disabilities. So if you wanted to share more about your experiences.
Absolutely. So, especially in the freelance world, I think it's very important, because it's one of the few jobs that, like, people that do have heavy disabilities can do. I have several disabilities, several autoimmune and physical disabilities that prevent me from working like a full-time job. I do work part-time somewhere locally to like pay my rent, and then anything I make comics or freelance is kind of my money, or I go back into buying more Sonic stuff.
Yes, feed the addiction.
Yeah. Being a freelance artist is great, because it definitely gives you the opportunity to can choose your own hours, to be light on yourself, but it also it is still a little strenuous. Obviously, there are still requirements, there are still deadlines. But just kind of advocating for safety in that and making sure that everybody still understood. Luckily, I've never had a problem with the IDW editors. They've all been super sweet and understanding. They're very communicative, so like, I'll like message them and be like, hey, I'm having a terrible week. Physically, I am awful. I'm going to be behind on this. And they'll be like, you know what, that's cool. You do you. Like, take care of yourself. As long as you're communicative with people, and stay on top of it. Really just kind of advocating for that ability to speak out, I guess.
Yes.
Hopefully getting a list of employers that are okay with that.
Right.
It's always kind of been a red flag of mine if I work for somebody and I'm like, hey, I have these disabilities and I physically can't do this. And they're like, oh, well,
tough luck.
Why not? Tough luck, do it. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's a red flag.
ooh, maybe not. I'll draw somewhere else.
No, draw somewhere else. Luckily, I've never run into that with IDW.
Good.
That's good. But definitely just kind of keeping that in mind. Especially if you are a disabled person, it's not worth your time to work for somebody who doesn't value your work and doesn't value your physical health over your work.
Yes,
your physical health and your physical well-being should always come before your work.
Preach. Say
your
that
editor
again.
should know that.
Yes, say that again to the people in the back.
Your physical health.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Honestly, like I'm so surprised by like this day and age where the amount of people are like destroying their bodies over the sake of like a deadline and stuff. And I'm like, yes, deadlines are extremely important. I'm a firm believer in the sense that you should never miss a deadline, but you shouldn't have to worry about it if you're communicating. Like if I talking to an editor and I'm like, I cannot meet this deadline.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we can move it out this much, that kind of thing. You know, it's like they can work with it.
Right. You can
Obviously,
manage.
there's like rush jobs and stuff, and you gotta be realistic with yourself. I think, especially in the freelance industry, because a lot of times, like even with these covers and interiors that I do, a lot of times it's the editors kind of just emailing me and being like, hey, we've got this, can you do it? And I'll be like, yes or no. You know, it's usually like, hey, we need a cover for this issue. Can you do it? Yes or no. If I'm kind of in that sense where I'm like, oh, you know, I've had a bad week physically, or, oh man, I know I've got a stressful week coming up and I know physically it's going to take it out of me. You know, it wouldn't be realistic. Yeah.
Of course.
And so I guess just kind of being kind to yourself, allowing yourself to say no, things like that. I know it can be hard in the beginning. That's something I struggled with, where I was like, oh, this is, you know, a dream job of mine. I want to say yes to everything, but it's sometimes you have to.
You got to know your limits.
You have to say like, yeah, and you have to say like, hey, can I push this deadline? Or like, yes, I can do it, but I can't do it that deadline, or I can do half of it. Can somebody else finish it? You know, they're very open. You know, a lot of comics jobs are very open to collaboration. And so like, I've been offered several times, like, you know, I usually do these big painted covers, but they were like, yeah, if you just want to sketch it or just ink it and then somebody else can finish it, like you know, they're very opening to like figuring out a solution, which is great. So kind of just being kind to yourself and setting realistic standards.
Right, of course.
So know your boundaries.
Right.
Let other people know your boundaries and know your limits as well. To yourself, it's not going to be helpful to anybody else, especially in an industry where it's so team focused, like everything, like, you know, these comics, it's like 10, 20 people work on each issue. So it's like if one person, you know, stops that flow, you know, that work or whatever, then it's like going to mess it up for 10, 20 people down the line. And so definitely just kind of keeping the communication open and being realistic with us a lot. But so far, they've all been extremely understanding. Which is good.
Awesome.
And there are several other people, you know, involved in the IDW comics I know that also have like autoimmune disorders and stuff. It kind of just goes back to that, like, a lot of disabled individuals turn to art, not only as like a therapy, but also as a career, just because it's viable. You know, it makes sense. It's easy to, quote unquote, easy to sit at home and make art.
So what would you say is like was the biggest fangirl moment that you had?
I gotta think.
So many to pick from.
Many. Probably that first email I got from IDW.
Oh.
I was freaking out. Like my roommates. Oh, they probably didn't hear the end of it for 3 days.
That's awesome. I would absolutely do the same thing too.
Yeah.
I guess I met Mike Pollock, Eggman's voice actor, at a comic book convention at the comic book shop we go to. It was for a free comic book day, and he was there to promote Sonic Boom when it was out at the time.
Wow.
And I got him to sign a issue of Sonic Universe 34, and he signed it with "Thanks for joining the Eggman Empire." And I loved it. That was so great. He's
the one I still have to meet. Last weekend I went to a Galaxy Columbus, and Roger Craig Smith and Colleen O'Shaughnessy were there. Sonic and Tails.
Yeah.
So I got to see them.
That was sick. Great. Yeah.
So I did see them this weekend. That was fun. I got them to sign some things.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I saw that you cosplayed with your friend, and I was like, you made those?
I did, yeah, the hoodies.
Dude, that's sick.
Oh gosh, like so long ago. I made them. The Sonic one I think was like 2017, and then I made the Shadow one like 2018 or 2019 thing. Yeah, they've been holding in there.
Well, you know, just a little side thing. I was very impressed with your I remember Halloween party. You were wearing you had like shadow skates on, like that was so cool. But
I got them to light up and everything. That was a lot of work. I had spent 8 hours putting those skates together. And they were temporary. Like they fell apart the second I took them off.
Oh no. You know,
I expected them to.
oh, for sure. You know, it was surprising that for like how that they held on this long.
I'm surprised they let me in. I was so worried. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do if they don't let me.
In the end, just awkwardly stand outside.
I was like, I'm gonna sneak in. I know how to sneak in. It's fine. I've done it before. I'll do it again.
No one's gonna stop you from celebrating
It was
your
like
shadow.
a senior. I was like, I couldn't care less about them like the kid. I don't care.
Yes, that's that senioritis I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It just hits.
It was like, I'm going in with roller skates. I
there
don't
you
care
go.
what they say.
You know.
Luckily, when I pulled up and I got my ticket out, it was my animation teacher one letting people in, and he was like, "Oh, nice skates." I was like, "It's Andy."
Oh yes, shout out Miss Sandy.
So he let me in, and I was like, "Awesome."
Appreciates good footwear.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. So is it
Fall at all.
barely held on by a thread?
Once.
So what advice would you give to like future artists that wanted to get into the same industry?
Don't get tunnel vision. I guess that's more so advice for like I see a lot of people that will ask me specifically, "Hey, I want to work for Sonic. How do I work for I?" It's one of those things that like, okay, make a comic. And they're like, "Well, I don't want to make comics. I just want to do the cover art." And I'm like, "Then why do you want to work for a comic?"
Right.
So it's very like, a lot of people will get this idea of like a dream job where they'll be like, "Okay, I want to do this." It's like, okay, here's what you do to get there. Here's what you have to be passionate about, like realistically work there. And they're like, "Okay, but I don't care about that." And I'm like, then why do you working for that?
Right.
So with Sonic, the main thing is like, a lot of people aren't really interested in working in comics, or they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to work in anything other than Sonic." And it's like, well, if that's your outlook, you're never going to work. You know,
you need to have
kind of a motivation. You need to kind of have a dedication to art and to the art form, and to kind of just being open to working on whatever. A lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. I think I always tell people it's like 50% your portfolio and then 50% luck. Of just like being present when you have to be. So kind of keeping that in mind, shoot every shot, take every single opportunity, even if it's not your dream job opportunity. If there's an opening for an artist over here, if there's an opening for an illustrator over here, and that's something you want to do, like go for it. Don't question it. Don't sit and dwell on whether or not you think you're ready for it. Just shoot your shot and go for it, because you never know. I guess a realistic piece of advice would be to have like a portfolio ready, like all the time.
Yeah.
Having like an updated and like accessible portfolio, I think, is like the number one thing that a lot of people don't have, especially younger artists that are new to this. And it's usually the people that tend to ask like, "Oh, do I work for this place?" And it's like, "Well, do you have a portfolio?" And they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Well, do that first." You can do it anywhere. Like you can even do it on a social media. If you have like an Instagram or a Twitter that's like tailored to nice professional clear art, that works. I heavily recommend just kind of like making your own website, even if you don't like buy the domain. I use a free website. Just get a long URL. Who cares? As long as you can have like a link that you can just kind of easily drop.
Yeah.
Keep it updated. Keep it clean. But that's what I did. I just had a link ready, for like when the opportunity arises, and you just like copy paste. Drop it wherever, it's easy, it's nice. Making sure you have a place for people to contact you. I know that's one thing that a lot of editors complain about, is even if like somebody will have a portfolio and they'll be like, "Oh, this is really nice," but they won't have like their contact or like email anywhere, and the editors are like, "I don't know how to contact this person because I'm not going to send them a DM on Twitter. That's weird."
Right.
And so kind of just having a nice like where they can access you, preferably email and not Instagram DMs. they will not DM you.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just having stuff like that available. Comics specifically, because I get a lot of questions where people are like, "Hey, I want to be a cover artist. How do I be a cover artist?" Specifically, like, I'm not interested in the interiors, but how do I be a cover artist? You need to have interior examples. You need to have sequential examples in your portfolio to be hired as a cover artist, especially with IDW and with Sonic, because they have to go through an approval process, that I mentioned. You have to get approved by Sega. And it can take a while, and so they don't want to hire an artist that goes through that if you can't do it, They're going to want you down the line. They're like, oh, well, we need help on these interiors. Everybody else is busy. Can you help us? You don't have any examples of interiors. You've never done a comic in your life. That's kind of a waste of talent in their opinion. And so it's like, why hire someone that can't do it all?
Why even bother?
There's so many other talented people that can, know. So definitely just keep things updated, have a nice portfolio, have a place for them to contact you, have sequentials in your portfolio.
Awesome. Thank you.
Passionate about it.
Right.
If you don't enjoy it, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you like the idea of it, but not like actually wanting to do the work to putting it in the work.
Yeah, a lot of people, I noticed this. So I majored in animation when I was in school. And I noticed it a lot in animation where kids would be like, oh, I love watching animation. It's so cool. I want to make animation. And they'll get into an animation major, they'll take one class, and they'll be like, I hate making animation. But then they'll stick with it. And they're like, well, it's my major. I don't know what else. I'm like, switch your major. What do you do? Like,
hey, you're not just obligated to just one thing.
If you start working on a portfolio for this and you realize, hey, I hate comics, maybe this isn't the place for you, and that's okay. If you want to work on Sonic, like you hate making comics, it's like there's plenty of other Sonics.
Exactly. Sonic
I don't
movies.
know why. I think it's just because IDW Comics has a lot of outwardly artists that are very open about their experience. They're very independent artists that post a lot. It's a lot of like, oh, my mutual got hired by IDW, I can too. And so they don't think of it as, oh, this is a professional comic artist with a career. Or so they think of it as, oh, this Sonic fan got hired to draw Sonic art. It's like, okay, but this is also a professional artist who tailored their portfolio to this career specifically, has been working hours and hours and hours to get this job. Like it's got a very professional sense behind it.
Yeah.
That I guess a lot of fans don't realize.
Right.
It can be hard to see, like you get kind of that tunnel vision of like, oh, well, my friend was hired by IDW, or this person I followed got hired by IDW, and it's like, that's awesome, that's cool, but they also put so many hours into that. You're not gonna suddenly be given this dream opportunity because you're Sonic once and you enjoyed it.
You don't get the best. You don't always get the best friend pass.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that kind of advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this episode. I really appreciate it. Do you share where everyone can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as lightningstar1389. I made the username when I was 12. You aren't allowed to bully me for it. On Twitter, I am LS1389 because lightningstar1389 was too long and it wouldn't fit. There you go.
Good enough. Well, good enough. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And thank you all for listening to this episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Live, laugh, love. It's Zach, and this has been Zach's Art-Ful Podcast. Have a wonderful day / afternoon / evening, wherever you are. Stay comfy. Drink all the hot cocoa you can. Stay warm out there in them streets. And good day.